The War Council aboard the OCS Dominion was silent except for the steady hum of the holotable. Pale blue light projected the image of a human warship, battered, scorched, half its hull torn open, but still firing. High Commander Vorith Dral watched the replay without blinking. The human vessel's coil guns spat tungsten slugs as its reactor bled heat like a dying star. Yet it fought on, destroying 2 frigates before vanishing into warp. One of Dral's subcommanders broke the quiet. Statistical anomaly, Commander. Random luck. Dral's heavy brow ridge lowered. Luck does not repeat. This is the 3rd report in 4 cycles. They survive because they adapt faster than protocol allows. They must be studied. The other officers exchanged uneasy glances. Capturing a human warship intact was not standard procedure. Dral turned to the map, isolating a patch of contested neutral space near the Orion Arm border. We lay the bait here. A distress signal from a civilian vessel. They will come. Humans cannot ignore such things. Then, we close the trap. No one argued. They knew better. Far from the Dominion, the UHS Valiant cruised through the black, her angular hull lit in thin ribbons by running lights. Inside, Commander Elias Cade crouched on the outer maintenance platform, helmeted and tethered, inspecting a fresh weld along the gravitic shield array. Lieutenant Mara Vance's voice crackled in his ear. Captain, most people let the bots do post-install checks. You know, because they enjoy breathing. Cade tightened the last brace and sealed the access panel. Bots don't notice hairline fractures, he said, clipping his tether to the next rung. Fracture spreads mid-combat. We lose shield coherence, we die. I like breathing too, Mara. That's why I check. She laughed softly. Paranoid as ever. Alive as ever, Cade corrected, pulling himself back inside through the airlock. On the bridge, the low murmur of consoles filled the air. Ensign Lyra at comms frowned at her display. Sir, I'm picking up a distress call. Civilian transport Rastovan, claiming pirate attack. Coordinates transmitting. Distance? Cade asked. 2.3 light hours, Lyra replied. Near the Cothes Drift. Tactical Officer Wren lifted his head from his console. That's close to Coalition patrol routes. Too close. Lyra adjusted the signal gain. It's clean. Perfect bandwidth, no static. She hesitated. Distress calls are never this clean. Vance leaned against the railing, studying Cade. Could be bait. Could be real, Cade said. And if it's real, they don't have time for us to debate. Plot intercept. Wren's jaw tightened. You're aware? Yes. Cade cut him off. If it's a trap, better us than an unarmed transport. The ship came alive as the crew prepared. Gunnery crews cycled coil gun ammo feeds. Missile pods rolled from their cradles into launch tubes. In engineering, Chief Tech Halverson rerouted spare power to shields and warmed the emergency coolant flush systems. Cade addressed the crew over the intercom. I don't know what's waiting for us. What I do know is that we've survived worse with less. Check your stations. Trust your crew. And if you have a spare moment, secure your teeth. We might be in for a rough ride. The Valiant dropped from FTL in the shadow of a drifting civilian vessel. The Rastovan was dark, lights flickering at irregular intervals. Its hull bore scorch marks in neat, deliberate patterns. Too deliberate. Too clean, Vance muttered from the XO's chair. Cade scanned the field. No debris. No escape pods. Reading no life signs, Wren confirmed. Lyra's fingers froze on her controls. Multiple warp shadows, closing fast, decloak signatures. The void lit up as 3 sleek Coalition destroyers shimmered into view, flanking the Valiant's starboard and port. A heavy cruiser loomed behind them, and then the massive silhouette of a dreadnought resolved at the far edge of the field. The comms channel opened with a burst of static. Vorith Dral's deep voice filled the bridge. Human vessel Valiant. Today, your legend ends. Power down and surrender. You will be treated with curiosity. Cade's voice was calm. Appreciate the invitation, Commander, but I'm afraid our schedule's full. Drall's eyes narrowed. Then you will be reduced to data fragments. The channel cut. Coalition ships powered weapons. Ren's sensors lit up in crimson. Multiple lock-ons. They're targeting us from all sides. Cade sat back in his chair, eyes fixed on the tactical map. His tone was steady, almost casual. Helm, full burn toward those asteroids. Give them something to miss. Thrusters roared, the Valiant lurching forward as the first enemy salvos lit up the black. The Valiant surged ahead, her thrusters firing in erratic bursts. The tactical map bloomed with hostile firing arcs, overlapping zones designed to leave no path untouched. Brace! Cade barked. The first salvo struck. Shields flared in concentric ripples as plasma bolts hammered the hull. The ship shuddered, a deep metallic groan echoing through the frame. Shields at 78%. Ren called out, adjusting power feeds. They're compensating for our drift pattern. Change it, Cade said without looking up. The helm officer, Lieutenant Soraya, began altering course by half-degree increments at irregular intervals, weaving a pattern too jagged for standard tracking algorithms. On the forward screen, a destroyer slid into view, its angular frame illuminated by the flicker of weapons fire. It closed in, confident in its numbers. Coil guns, port battery, Cade ordered. Firing, Vance confirmed. Tungsten slugs tore across the void, striking the destroyer's shields in bright, sputtering bursts. They're holding, Ren warned. They won't for long, Cade replied. The second volley punctured the destroyer's shield bubble. One slug smashed into its engine block, venting white-hot debris into space. The vessel drifted off course, crippled. That's one down, Vance said, her voice steady. 5 to go. The Coalition's response was immediate. The heavy cruiser advanced, launching a barrage of tracking missiles. Dozens of white trails streaked across the tactical display. Countermeasures, Cade ordered. Flares and chaff burst from the Valiant's hull, but not all missiles were fooled. 4 detonated near the aft section, rattling the decks. Rear plating breached in Section 14, engineering reported over comms. Containment doors sealed. No casualties. Cade exhaled slowly. Halverson, how bad? Minimal structural loss. I can patch it with scrap once we're out of here, the chief replied, already in motion. The enemy tightened their formation, herding the Valiant away from the asteroid cluster. Drall's voice came through an open channel, smooth and confident. Impressive. You last longer than most. But every path you take, I've already calculated. Cade muted the feed. Ren, run a sensor sweep on that cluster. Anything worth dying for? The skin lit up with dense rock formations and metallic signatures. Plenty of cover. Could mask us from their long-range sensors, if we get there. Then we get there, Cade said. Plasma beams lanced across their path, forcing Soraya to swing the Valiant into a corkscrew roll. The ship bucked, inertial dampers straining to keep the crew upright. Power drain on shields, 62%, Ren shouted. Shift shield output, forward arc to 70, port to 30, Cade ordered. We'll take the glancing hits, keep the nose alive. The Valiant dove through the fire, returning shots with pinpoint accuracy. Gunnery Chief Corps teams switched to manual targeting, locking onto shield generator nodes exposed by earlier impacts. 2 hits later, another destroyer peeled away, its shield grid collapsing. In the chaos, Cade's eyes flicked to an idea forming in his mind. Engineering, prep the debris ejectors. All of them. Aye, Captain, Halverson replied, half grinning. Moments later, a cloud of scrap metal, torn hull plating, and overheated conduits spilled into space behind them. Each piece carried a false beacon transponder, broadcasting Valiant's signature. On the tactical screen, enemy targeting reticles split, half chasing the ghosts. One coalition frigate overshot its intercept vector, exposing its flank. The Valiant's coil guns tore through its hull in 3 blistering volleys. Ghost field is holding, Halverson reported. Not for long, Ren said. Their AI is adjusting. Drawl's voice returned, colder now. Clever. But tricks will not save you forever. Depends how long forever is, Vance muttered under her breath. Another volley slammed into the Valiant, shattering shield integrity to 42%. Warning klaxons blared. Medical bays filling up, Captain, Vance reported. Minor burns, concussion cases. Cade's eyes scanned the field. The asteroid cluster was still distant, and the Coalition's flanking corvettes were moving to cut them off entirely. Options? He asked. Stay out here, we die slow, Wren said. Push for the cluster, we die faster. Unless we cheat, Cade said quietly. Vance turned to him. You're thinking. The shadow burn. She blinked. That's insane. Hull stress alone could kill us, yes, Cade finished. But it's the only move they won't predict. He opened the ship-wide channel. Crew, this is the captain. We're about to attempt the shadow burn. If you know the risks, you also know why I'm not explaining them. Secure yourselves. We'll either be behind them, or gone. Halverson's voice came over comms. Engineering's ready. Reactor at optimal flow. Sarai glanced back from the helm. On your mark, Captain. The Valiant's lighting dimmed as non-essential systems powered down. Hull plating polarized to scatter incoming scans. In the sudden quiet, only the hum of the reactor filled the air. Mark, Cade said. The ship leapt forward, her engines howling in protest. The void blurred, space itself seemed to stretch and snap. Crew members gritted their teeth, muscles locked against the brutal inertia. 43 seconds of nothing. No enemy fire. No alarms. Just the crushing silence of a ship gambling everything. Status? Cade asked, voice tight. Re-entry complete, Soraya said, her tone tinged with disbelief. We're behind their flagship. Cade leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Bring the guns to bear. The targeting reticles turned red. Fire! The Valiant emerged from the shadow burn like a ghost, her polarized hull blending into the darkness. Ahead, the Dominion's massive silhouette filled the viewport, a fortress of steel and alien engineering, its aft defenses minimal under the assumption no one could ever appear here. Target their sensor arrays and communications, Cade ordered, voice clipped. Aye, sir, Vance said, feeding coordinates to the gunnery crew. The coil guns fired in sharp, controlled bursts. Slugs slammed into the flagship's sensor masts, shearing them away in sprays of molten fragments. Comms dishes shattered, tumbling into space. On the tactical display, the enemy formation wavered. The Dominion was suddenly blind, its control over the fleet crippled. In the Coalition Command Center, Drawl's comm cracked. Report! Flagship sensors offline. Comms with escorts are unstable, his aide shouted. Drawl gripped the edge of the console. Impossible. No one could. A flicker of realization crossed his face. The humans had appeared where no ship should. Back on the Valiant, Wren scanned the enemy movements. Their flankers are hesitating. Formation's breaking. Good, Cade said. Let's give them a reason to scatter. He switched to ship-wide comms. Engineering, feed power to forward batteries. Gunners, load kinetic penetrators. The Valiant rolled slightly, presenting her weapons broadside. 2 more destroyers were caught out of position. Coil gun fire ripped through their unshielded sides, venting atmosphere and forcing emergency shutdowns. Sir, Wren called. Their remaining ships are regrouping, but slowly. Flagship's still holding position. Cade nodded. Time for the last card. He turned to Halverson on the engineering feed. Broadcast a reactor breach warning, full spectrum, Coalition channels. The chief's grin was grim. Copy. Sending the "we're about to explode" memo now. Across the enemy fleet, alarms flared. The false signal showed Valiant's core reaching critical mass, moments from a catastrophic detonation. On the Dominion, Drawl's tactical screen painted a vivid simulation, the human warship's imminent destruction, the blast radius overlapping half his fleet. Pull us back, he ordered sharply. His aides stared. Commander? That is not a risk we take. Fall back! The order rippled through the fleet, ships veering away, widening the gap. Gap in their screen, Rand confirmed. We can punch through clean. Do it, Cade said. The Valiant surged forward, engines burning hard. As they passed the nearest asteroid cluster, Cade gave one last order to Gunnery Chief Corps. Fire debris cannons! Chunks of high-density rock, accelerated by magnetic rails, slammed into a pursuing frigate, tearing it apart without a shot fired from the enemy in return. The second projectile clipped another, sending it spinning out of control. Clear path to FTL, Soraya said, relief creeping into her voice. Engage, Cade replied. The stars stretched, twisted, and fell away as the Valiant vanished into warp, leaving the Coalition behind in scattered disarray. 2 days later, the Valiant slid into orbit above a human frontier station. Her hull bore scorch marks, impact craters, and missing panels, but her engines still hummed with life. Docking clamps secured, and the crew stepped onto the station's concourse. There were no parades, no speeches, just tired smiles, clasped shoulders, and the quiet understanding of those who'd come back from the edge. In the station's observation lounge, Cade stood with Vance, looking out over the ship. You realize you've just made Draal's nightmares worse, Vance said. Cade smirked faintly. He'll adapt. She tilted her head. And so will we. Coalition space. On the Dominion, Draal sat in his private chamber, reviewing grainy, fragmentary recordings of the battle. The human ship's sudden disappearance and reappearance defied his simulations. His aide approached cautiously. Were they lucky? Draal's eyes narrowed. No. They were ready. The aide hesitated. Then, how do we counter them? Draal looked out at the stars, silent for a long moment. We study them. And when the time comes, we will see if they can adapt to us. But in his mind, the image of the Valiant materializing behind his flagship remained, as vivid as the day it happened. He had underestimated humans once. He would not make the same mistake, though the thought of facing them again left a shadow he could not ignore. The Valiant's name began to spread in quiet corners of human space, whispered with equal parts pride and disbelief. She was proof of something every spacer already knew, but the galaxy was only starting to understand. Human ships weren't special because of their weapons, their armor, or their engines. They were special because of the people inside them. And some lessons, once learned, could never be unlearned.